Have you ever wondered what if Luffy had Joy Boy's Haki in episode 1? And to be clear, we aren't giving Kid Luffy Gear 5 right away. Instead, we're giving him something different. The same kind of overwhelming Conqueror's Haki tied to Joy Boy. But there's one catch. Luffy doesn't understand it. He has no training, no control, and no clue why animals keep running away from him like he just threatened their bloodline. So this version of Luffy is still Luffy. He still eats the gum-gum fruit. He still wants to become king of the pirates. The difference is that every time he gets pushed into a real emotional corner, something much older than him starts pushing back. Let's get into it. The story starts the same. Luffy is still a loud little menace in Fuchsia Village, hanging around Shanks and the red-hair pirates every chance he gets. He still wants to join the crew. Shanks still keeps laughing him off, and Luffy still gets mad, because in his mind he is absolutely ready for the sea. He isn't. He's like 7 bad decisions in a straw hat. But Shanks starts noticing something strange about him earlier. At first, it's small. When Luffy gets angry, the room gets quiet. Not normal quiet, the kind where men who have actually killed people suddenly stop laughing because their instincts just tapped them on the shoulder. Lucky Roo feels it first, then Beckman, then Shanks. Luffy gets frustrated one day, slams his fist on the bar, and for half a second the wooden beams creak like the whole building is under pressure. A few weaker bandits outside stumble without knowing why. Luffy doesn't notice. He just keeps yelling about being a pirate. Shanks notices, and that's when he stops treating Luffy like just some funny village kid. Because Shanks has felt powerful Haki before. Roger had it, Whitebeard had it, the monsters of the sea have it, but what comes out of Luffy for that 1 second feels different. It feels old. Then Luffy eats the gum-gum fruit. Same as Canon, he opens the box, sees the fruit, and eats it because apparently mysterious pirate fruit sounds like lunch. Shanks panics. Luffy stretches. Everyone freaks out. But here, Shanks' reaction is worse. Because now he's looking at a kid with a ridiculous devil fruit and a Haki presence that makes no sense. So Shanks starts watching him more carefully, not in a cold way. More like he just realized the rubber kid might be carrying a bomb made out of destiny. And of course, Luffy has no idea. He's busy learning that his arm stretches now. Priorities. Then Higuma and the mountain bandits show up. At first, it plays out mostly the same. They mock Shanks, they break the bottle. Shanks lets it happen. Luffy gets furious because he doesn't understand why Shanks won't fight back. But in this timeline, when Luffy yells at Shanks, the whole bar reacts. The windows rattle. Makino freezes. The bandits flinch before they even realize they're scared. And Shanks turns toward Luffy with a look he almost never shows. Concern, because Luffy's anger is starting to leak. Not enough to knock people out yet, but enough to make everyone in the room feel it. Later, when the bandits kidnap Luffy and take him out to sea, Higuma thinks he has control. He doesn't. He throws Luffy into the water. Luffy starts sinking. The Sea King rises, and this is the first huge change. In canon, Shanks saves Luffy and loses his arm. Here, Shanks still jumps in, but before the Sea King can bite down, Luffy panics. Not because he's brave, because he's terrified. And that fear turns into something sharp. The ocean goes still for 1 second. Then Luffy screams. A black wave explodes out from him. The Sea King stops mid-attack. Its eyes go wide. This giant monster of the East Blue, the thing that should be ruling these waters, suddenly looks like it just remembered it isn't at the top of the food chain. The wave hits the bandits' boat wreckage. It hits the sea. It hits the sky. And the Sea King backs away. Shanks still grabs Luffy, but this time, he doesn't lose his arm. He just floats there, holding this crying rubber kid, staring at the Sea King as it disappears under the water. And for once, Shanks doesn't joke, because he knows what he just felt. That was Conqueror's Haki, but it was way too strong for a kid, way too old, and way too familiar in a way Shanks doesn't want to say out loud. When Shanks leaves, the moment with the straw hat still happens, but the meaning changes a little. Shanks isn't just betting on Luffy because Luffy reminds him of Roger. Now he's betting on him because something impossible is waking up inside him. He puts the hat on Luffy's head. He tells him to return it someday, when he becomes a great pirate. Luffy cries. Shanks smiles. But as the red-hair pirates sail away, Beckman looks at him. You felt that too, didn't you? Shanks doesn't answer right away. He just watches Luffy getting smaller on the shore. Then he says, yeah. And that's all he says, because some things are too dangerous to name too early. 10 years pass. Luffy grows up. And because Shanks never lost his arm, the story around him changes. People still talk about red-haired Shanks, but now there is no missing arm legend tied to Luffy. There is only a rumor that years ago, something scared a Sea King away from a child. Most people don't believe it. Why would they? It sounds stupid. And to be fair, a lot of true things in One Piece sound stupid until someone gets punched through a building. Luffy still trains. He still learns how to use his rubber body. He still creates Gum Gum Pistol. But his haki keeps leaking when his emotions spike. Animals avoid him. Bandits don't mess with him twice. Even Garp notices it. And Garp being Garp, he doesn't sit Luffy down for a careful emotional conversation. Absolutely not. He throws him into worse training. Because if your grandson has terrifying ancient haki, clearly the answer is more cliffs. When Luffy finally sets sail, the Alvida situation changes fast. He still ends up on Alvida's ship. He still meets Kobe. Kobe is still terrified of everything, including eye contact. But Alvida senses something wrong the second Luffy stands up to her. She doesn't know what haki is. Most East Blue pirates don't. But her body knows enough. Luffy tells Kobe to say what he wants. Kobe finally says he wants to join the Marines. Alvida swings her club. Luffy takes the hit like usual because rubber. Then he gets annoyed. And the second his eyes sharpen, half of Alvida's crew drops. Not all of them, just the weak ones. 1 second they're laughing. Next second, they're on the floor. Kobe thinks they died. They didn't. But emotionally, yeah, maybe a little. Alvida freezes. Luffy just blinks. Huh. Guess they were tired. Kobe looks at him like he just watched a demon sneeze. Then Luffy sends Alvida flying. That part still feels like Luffy. But now Kobe understands something immediately. Luffy isn't just strong. There is something around him that makes weak people fold before the fight even starts. Then Luffy reaches Shellstown. Zoro is still tied up. Helmeppo is still useless in that special rich kid way. Morgan is still running the base like a man whose mirror compliments him every morning. Luffy meets Zoro and likes him almost immediately. Because Luffy's standards for friendship are basically, can you fight? Are you interesting? Did you say no once, but I ignored it? Perfect. When Luffy breaks into the Marine base and things start getting loud, Morgan sends soldiers after him. This is where the next change hits. Luffy isn't trying to hurt regular Marines. He doesn't even think they're the problem at first. But when Morgan orders them to fire on Kobe and the little girl, Luffy gets angry, and that anger snaps through the courtyard. A wave of haki drops most of the Marines where they stand. Rifles hit the ground. Helmeppo starts shaking so badly he can barely speak. Morgan stays standing. Barely, and Zoro sees it. He doesn't know what it is yet, but he knows what it means. This idiot in the straw hat is dangerous. Not just strong. Dangerous. Luffy still frees Zoro. Zoro still agrees to join after realizing Luffy is going straight at Morgan with or without help. And when Morgan swings his axe hand, Luffy and Zoro take him down fast. The difference is the aftermath. The Marines don't just thank Luffy quietly. They're scared of him. Because pirates are supposed to beat people. They are not supposed to walk into a courtyard and make trained men collapse by wanting something hard enough. Orange Town gets weird. Buggy hears about the rubber boy before Luffy even gets there. At first he doesn't care. Then someone says the kid wears a straw hat. That gets his attention. Then someone says people drop around him for no reason. Now Buggy really doesn't like this story. Because Buggy has sailed with monsters. He knows what Conqueror's haki feels like. He has been around Roger. He has been around Shanks. And he has spent years pretending those experiences did not leave permanent emotional damage. Then Luffy shows up. Buggy sees the hat. He gets mad. The fight starts. And at first, Buggy is still annoying to deal with. His chop fruit makes him hard to hit cleanly, and Luffy isn't a technical fighter yet. But Buggy makes one big mistake. He damages the straw hat. Luffy goes quiet. And the whole town feels it. Buggy's crew drops in waves. Moji collapses. Richie the Lion whimpers and backs away. Kabaji stays up, but he looks like he is already regretting every career choice that led him here. Buggy stays conscious because he has a stronger will than most East Blue pirates, but even he starts sweating, because for 1 second Luffy doesn't feel like a rookie, he feels like a king. Luffy beats Buggy after that, but Buggy remembers the feeling. He's a coward, a liar, and a professional survivor. So when the sea starts moving, Buggy notices. When Luffy reaches Syrup Village, the Kuro situation changes in a quieter way. Kuro's whole plan depends on control. He hides in plain sight. He manipulates Kaya. He uses patience, fear, and lies. That works on most people. It doesn't work as well around Luffy. Luffy doesn't figure everything out because he's suddenly smart. Let's not get crazy, but his instincts are sharper here. Joy Boy's haki isn't observation haki, but Luffy's will reacts badly to people who try to crush someone else's freedom. So whenever Kuro is near Kaya, Luffy feels irritated and doesn't know why. Usopp still tries to warn the village. No one believes him. Luffy believes him faster. Because Luffy doesn't need a whole debate. Usopp is scared, but he's still standing between danger and his home. That's enough for Luffy. When the Black Cat pirates attack, Luffy's Haki leaks again during the battle. Not as a giant blast this time, more like pressure. The weaker pirates slow down, some hesitate, some run, and that gives Usopp more room to actually fight instead of just survive. Kuro still moves fast. He still cuts through the battlefield with that silent step technique, but then he starts attacking his own crew, and that is the exact wrong thing to do in front of Luffy. The Haki hits hard enough to make Kuro stumble for half a second. That half second costs him. Luffy catches him. And once Luffy has him, the fight is basically over. Then we get to Barity, and this is where stronger people start noticing Luffy properly. Don Krieg arrives, Gin is still involved, Sanji still feeds him, Zeph still refuses to let starving people die, and Mihawk still shows up chasing Krieg's fleet like he had nothing better to do that afternoon. Zoro challenges him. That fight still happens, and Zoro still loses, badly. Joy Boy's Haki doesn't fix Zoro's gap with Mihawk. That gap is still a canyon with swords at the bottom, but Mihawk notices Luffy watching. And when Zoro falls, Luffy's Haki flares. Not enough to knock Mihawk out, obviously, but enough for Mihawk to turn his head. For the first time, he looks genuinely interested, because Mihawk has seen ambition. He respects ambition. But Luffy's presence feels strange, raw, untrained, massive. Mihawk leaves after sparing Zoro, but he says something different this time. Straw Hat, that will of yours is dangerous. Luffy has no idea what that means. Zoro does. Sanji kinda does. And Zeph definitely does. Then Krieg starts acting up. His armor, poison gas, weapons, numbers, all of it still make him dangerous for Barati. But Krieg's crew is already exhausted. When Luffy's Haki starts leaking during the fight, a lot of them lose the will to keep going. Krieg gets angrier because he thinks they're being cowards. But Sanji sees what is really happening. Krieg built his crew on fear, and Luffy is breaking that fear without even understanding what he's doing. That's part of why Sanji joins. Then we reach Arlong Park, and this is the arc where Joy Boy's Haki matters the most. Because Arlong isn't just another East Blue villain. He is stronger, crueler, and carrying years of hatred. He rules through fear. He breaks people slowly. He turns Nami's life into a cage and calls it a deal. Luffy doesn't understand all of it at first. He still needs Nami to ask. But when Nami finally breaks down and asks for help, everything changes. She stabs her tattoo. She cries. She asks Luffy to help her. Luffy puts the straw hat on her head. And for the first time in this timeline, the Haki doesn't explode randomly. It settles, which is way worse. The walk to Arlong Park feels different. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp still pull up, but the air feels heavy before they even get there. Fishmen start turning before they see them, not because they hear footsteps, because something is coming. Arlong laughs at first, then Luffy steps into the park. The laugh stops. Arlong doesn't know Joy Boy personally. Of course he doesn't, but fishmen have old stories too, and whatever Luffy is giving off feels wrong in a way Arlong can't ignore. When that Haki rolls across Arlong Park, it presses against everything Arlong built on fear. The weaker fishmen drop. Some stay standing but can't move. Usopp stares. Sanji lights a cigarette with shaking fingers. Zoro smiles because he is a lunatic and this is apparently good news to him. Arlong stays standing. He is too strong to fold from pressure alone. But now he is angry in a different way, because for the first time in years, he is the one feeling small. The fight still gets brutal. Arlong is powerful. Luffy still gets knocked around. The building still gets torn up. But when Luffy sees Nami's room, the maps, the years of stolen labor, the proof of everything Arlong took from her, the controlled pressure finally breaks open. Luffy destroys the room. Then he destroys Arlong. When Arlong Park collapses, the villagers don't fully understand what they saw. They just know the nightmare is over. Nami gets her freedom back, and Luffy's crew leaves with the navigator. But the story spreads faster this time. Because too many people saw fishmen drop without being touched. Too many people felt that pressure in their bones. The Marines hear about it. The world government hears about it. And somewhere far away, someone reads the report and doesn't like the words attached to this rookie. Straw Hat, Rubber Body, Conqueror's Haki. Before we move into Logtown, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Now, with Arlong defeated and Luffy's Haki starting to feel less like an accident, the crew heads toward the town where the Pirate King died. By the time the crew reaches Logtown, Luffy already has a bigger reputation than canon. His bounty is higher, not Yonko level or anything crazy, but way too high for an East Blue rookie. The Marines are nervous. Smoker is interested. Buggy and Alvida still come after him, because Buggy has common sense in every situation except the ones where he actually needs it. The execution platform scene still happens, Luffy still smiles, Buggy still tries to kill him, and the lightning still strikes. But here, there is another layer. Right before the blade comes down, Luffy laughs. Not because he has a plan, he absolutely doesn't. He just accepts the moment. And that laugh carries. The Haki bursts out across the square. People drop everywhere. Pirates, civilians, marines. Even Smoker feels his body lock up for half a second. Buggy nearly passes out while holding the blade, which is probably the most Buggy thing possible. Then lightning hits. The platform explodes. Luffy survives. And now Loketown has a new legend. Gold Roger died there with a smile. Years later, a rubber kid in a straw hat laughed on the same platform, shook the whole square, and walked away alive. That story spreads fast. Smoker chases him harder this time, because now Luffy isn't just some pirate rookie, he is a problem. Dragon still appears and stops Smoker, but even Dragon pauses when he feels the trace of Haki Luffy left behind. Dragon came to save his son, but now he realizes his son might be carrying something far bigger than a family name, so by the time Luffy enters the Grand Line, the crew is already different. Zoro doesn't say much about it, but he watches Luffy differently after Arlong Park. Not afraid. More like he's realizing his captain is carrying something even Luffy doesn't understand yet. Nami understands it in a different way. That same pressure could have crushed Arlong Park, but it waited until she asked for help. Usopp is terrified, obviously. But he also saw that pressure turned toward the people hurting Nami, not the people Luffy was protecting. Sanji acts cool about it and fails. And Luffy still doesn't understand what he has. He just knows that when his friends are in danger, something inside him answers. That makes the Grand Line much more dangerous for everyone else. Because this version of Luffy is going to make mistakes. He is still going to charge into fights, make dumb choices, and get knocked around. But now, every major enemy he faces has to deal with the same problem. Luffy's will isn't normal. Crocodile, Enel, Lucci, Marineford, all of them can still hurt Luffy, and some of them can break him badly. But the deeper Luffy goes, the more that ancient Haki is going to wake up. And once Luffy learns how to control it, that is when the entire world has a problem. So that's what happens if Luffy has Joy Boy's Haki in Episode 1. Shanks never loses his arm. The East Blue gets shaken up way earlier. Buggy realizes something is wrong with Luffy before almost anyone else. Arlong Park becomes the first place where Luffy's Haki feels less like an accident and more like a warning. And by the time he reaches the Grand Line, the world government already has its eyes on him. Luffy still wants to become king of the pirates, but now the sea itself feels like it heard him say it. Let me know in the comments what One Piece what if you'd want to see next. Drop a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more anime what ifs, and I'll catch you in the next one.